Hi guys, this is Yassin, and I'm with Atif to present our FOA regarding analyzing the figure Mark Dice, a popular conservative YouTube personality who heavily criticizes many mainstream media outlets such as CNN and MSNBC, calling it fake news, and who's also a very heavy Trump supporter. And the goal of our FOA is going to be analyzing the specific language aspects in his videos regarding his opinions towards these outlets and how that says who he is and how it establishes his identity, specifically how it identifies him as an extreme conservative and a popular voice to an audience very conservative audience who also feel the same way and also have the same ideals as he does, that CNN is fake news and they're pro-Trump, etc. So I'm just going to get started. I'm going to pause at certain points and I'm going to discuss this video.
Take a look at this poor.
So already here we can see that he's already starting to laugh, and we can see that the word here, lunatics, liberal lunatics, it's a very provocative word, and it already helps establish his identity of against how against he is to leftist people, to essentially liberals, and he's making it seem like a very new he's making it seem like a news story with like a very provocative headline, as if it's like a very serious thing, and it's something to be worth talking about, like it's a very popular thing, liberal lunatics.
CNN host having an emotional breakdown because people just don't believe what they're saying anymore, especially when their quote stellar reporting comes from anonymous sources that we're just supposed to believe without any evidence.
So one couple things to take note is one, his usage of being in front of this background here allows allows him to propagate his facial expressions to the viewer, to further to as if like he's talking directly to you. So this has the effect of like talking directly to his conservative audience. So to further it allows like a more like one-on-one discussion instead of just hearing his voice. So you could further absorb what he's saying. And also the manner in which he talks, he puts emphasis on like particular words such as stellar reporting and anonymous sources, and that helps further establish his narrative that these outlets shouldn't be trusted, and it helps to also establish his identity and voice out to the people who also feel the same way as him, that these news outlets shouldn't be trusted at all.
Tell you what, come out, name those people, then we'll have something to talk about.
One, we protect sources. Two, it's not just CNN, it's Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, ABC,
who are the
NBC.
sources?
I'm sorry, CNN, but just because other mainstream media outlets are reporting on the same story doesn't make it any more credible. It just means that you guys are repeating the same rumors, which originated at the Washington Compost based off of supposed anonymous sources with zero evidence.
So, as I said before, you could see how he's very passionate about what he's talking about. He's moving his head back and forth, and he's exhibiting very jittery bodily movements. So it shows that he has really a lot to say about how bad CNN is, and this kind of passion he's exhibiting helps to further establish his identity as a pro-conservative, anti-liberal news person.
Who are the sources? Oh, because they're hiding behind this anonymity.
Oh,
and that's what we're seeing.
Please, do not even start with me that you're just going to attack sources.
Okay, so
That is
so are you saying
ridiculous.
McMaster is lying?
I'm not saying McMaster is
Are you?
lying.
Well, he didn't really answer the
He
question.
didn't answer
He
the
said nothing
question.
inappropriate.
He said, no, that's his opinion.
That would be.
But that's his opinion.
That
You
would,
cannot say, you cannot attack,
Yeah.
do not attack the stellar
I'm-
reporters of CNN.
Okay.
They have their sources, and
the
we're
stellar
particularly
reporters of CNN that I am going to attack right now and say, guess what?
So as you just saw here, a couple things that are very important is when the woman starts talking, you could see how Mark is mocking her very, very clearly. Like he starts to laugh and he starts to imitate the way she's pointing at the gentleman, as if she's like an emotional child, like who cannot control herself. And this helps further his narrative and position that CNN hosts are essentially not people to really take seriously. and then the way he's like stellar reporting, and then like as if he's saying that in a surprised tone, and then he laughs immediately after, is so to suggest that what she said is like humorous and is just a joke.
I don't believe them because their name's staying anonymous. If they camera.
It's just riding the cotton pony. Or perhaps people who work for the Counterfeit News Network are just so on edge because millions of Americans just don't believe a single thing they say anymore.
So he just said here a couple things. So he said that, how she's just riding the cotton pony to suggest that, she has like no emotional basis, no emotional stability. And also his usage of the word counterfeit is also a very good word to analyze here, because it demonstrates his position that he believes that these news networks are fake, and it's a very provocative work, and it really helps set in stone his identity that he thinks that these news outlets are just fake and they're not to be taken seriously whatsoever, and it helps him, and it helps really attract the audience he's trying to voice like a magnet.
Maybe this cisgender African American male can explain things to us better.
Now, the president also talking just a bit about his interactions with the fired FBI director, James Comey, and indicating that, among other things, he thinks James Comey is, let me start again. What the president did say about James Comey in his tweet, certainly, is that Comey was giving up certain information, in other words, that he might not or should not have been giving.
Yeah.
Now,
or maybe not. Anderson Cooper, would you like to try to salvage this conversation and prevent it from going down the toilet?
So as you saw here, as the person started speaking, he was stuttering and he couldn't come up with exactly what he wanted to say. And he just laughs. Mark just laughs and makes fun of the individual, which again furthers demonstrate his narrative that people at CNN don't have the mental capacity to form coherent thoughts. And the way he says, Anderson Cooper, would you like to salvage this conversation? He's essentially just making fun of these news anchors and just basically demonstrating that it's a comedy and that these people are just saying, nonsense essentially. And that just helps to further establish how, that just helps further set in stone how he feels about these news networks.
I don't care what he says to the Russians. I mean, he's the president of the United States. If he wants to say that, Barack Obama wants to say whatever. If George Bush says, I looked in his eyes
If he took
and
a
thought
dump
he was
on his
a
desk,
freak,
you would defend him.
say it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he would do that you would not defend. I mean, you're.
He just said if President Trump took a dump on this guy's desk, that this guy would defend it. Oh, Anderson, always having men's rectums on your mind.
Okay, so this is the last point I'm going to talk about, and essentially he's discussing here, as when Anderson Cooper said if he took a dump on his desk, Mark, he shows like a shocked face, and then he replies by saying, oh, Anderson, always having men's rectums on your mind. So essentially here, what he's trying to show here is that he's trying to show that, these news anchors are not very prestigious and are just essentially, cop-outs and jokes who should, again, not be taken seriously. So in general, as you saw here, Mark essentially, he's picking and choosing clips that really aren't connected, but, he's essentially trying to serve his agenda of showing how foolish, liberals are and how ridiculous these mainstream media outlets are. So he's just essentially trying to show, that he's essentially showing all their blunders and shortcomings, and that this is how they always present themselves, and this helps, to establish his position, his worldview, and he's trying to relate this specific his worldview of how people are just, of how liberals are, people who just cannot talk correctly, that they cannot form any coherent thoughts or thoughts with substance, that they're just saying foolish things, and that these news outlets aren't really saying news, they're just having fake news stories that are just completely ridiculous. And now I'm going to go over Aatif, and he's going to discuss Mark's other material now.